Well, it's time to close up. We passed inspection, and so I've already started the process of hanging drywall. Important to note, when you're doing a shower kit, the drywall behind the polystyrene walls that go in needs to be the green board. All right, that's per code in our area. It may not be in every area, but sure is in ours. And I made a note here, I've got a shower head, 22.5 down, 17 5/8 in. So I gotta make sure I leave that in marker so I don't forget to cut the hole out. Now, just gonna go through a couple of challenges with this particular system. This shower system here has got a glass panel on both sides, a glass door. It gets hinged, it gets set in. The glass actually gets set in these troughs. So there's open space underneath the glass, okay? Which is why I love this system, because you don't have to cover everything up in silicone to function. Now, when you draw the line through here, this is the point that you're gonna be installing your U-channel that holds your wall panel. So we've got to have blocking there. All right, so because this is a very busy mechanical wall, I've gone ahead and I've cut some blocking, and I'm going to take the time to pre-drill some screws where the blocking goes on an angle, all right, so that I can put this blocking in on the flat and still have it screwed flush to this wall. I know there's nothing on the other side of the stud, so if I came through this way, I run the risk of hitting something. So we'll go that way. It'll be a little bit of a pain in the butt. I've also grabbed out of the box the U-channel, and it's gonna sit right on this shelf inside the edge, okay, against the wall. And so now I've got the hole locations, made marks on the wall where the hole locations are. That way it'll guide me as to where I need my blocking. I always know the end from the beginning. And in this one case, didn't quite have that figured out before I got started, but now we got a plan. Yeah, and if you haven't seen that before, when you want to put a screw on an angle, the easiest way to do it is to start it and then put it on reverse. Push on the screw head while you're in reverse and bore the angle. And then put it in forward. Okay? That way the wood doesn't split and it doesn't fire off and you don't put a drill through your hand. All right, now, for good measure, to make my life simple, I'm going to have this so I can hold the block with the screw. Oh, I might have gone too aggressive with my location. There we go. Let's get this in the wall. And I'm going to start, this is flush. I'm going to start just a touch proud, okay? Knowing that this is going to end up pulling it in. There we go. And do the bottom. Now I can remove that. We'll do that to all 3 blocks, and then we can put our drywall in. Now to finish this installation off, I'm going to attach the cut drywall to the blocking. There we go. All right. Okay. Be sure when you're doing this, because you know the screws are going to be this location, don't put drywall screws where you're going to want to run your mounting fasteners. Another good reason to have all this marked off in advance. Okay, there we go. One more for good measure down here. All right, well that one's done. Now it's time to put this panel in. And what I did is I'm cutting the height of the shower pan out of the drywall. So this one sits right on the ground. And it's 48 inches to the middle of this. It was actually 47 3/4. I was close, so I trimmed it up. I'm gonna go drop that in right now. There's nothing special about this piece. All we gotta know is where the studs are. And since the room is taller than the drywall, I can visually locate all of them, so it'll make it nice and easy. This is a problem, isn't it? I got wires in here I gotta be careful of. Not bad. Wow, that's amazing. If when you put in a drywall screw and you just miss and it's not working out, put it in reverse and lift up. Pull the screw out, okay? Double check your line. Oh, I'm a little to the left. Use the same hole and just put a little angle on it. All right. Well, here's a learning moment. I didn't make sure that this edge of the drywall was on top of my tile flange. It's actually a little too low. And so now the wall is bowing out down here, and I'm going to trim it back. This is a great opportunity to remind yourself this kind of a problem can happen. Ah, see that? Still a little bit too high here. Come on, you bugger. There you go. Important, guys, when you're working, drywall goes on top of the integrated tile flange, not in front of it. It's one of the most important questions that I get. If it's in front, everything has a curve, so then none of the trims line up. If you're tiling, none of the tile will work. And if you're using a 3-piece shower kit, that inside corner is going to have a hard time getting a good seal because there's going to be a gap near the bottom. So make sure you cut it to fit. Alrighty. Whenever you're screwing in the middle of a stud, don't screw straight in. Always go on about a 5-degree angle. A lot of the studs come out there near the edge of the tree. I've got the corners rounded off where the bark used to be. All right, like up at the top, you can see it's rounded off. If you go straight in, you might not hit the wood at all. All right. Well, that's about all I can do from down here, right? Okay, now, for down here, I've got to patch all of this. We're gonna go like that. Okay, I'm gonna take that measurement. We're gonna just freehand. It's 4 inches exactly. Put a couple scratches in this board. Secret here is to look where you're going. Don't look at your hand. You'll be close enough. Come on. Okay. Here's a little trick. This used to be a wall. So this is an inside corner, which means it's covered in tape and mud. If you open up your knife a little bit, you can kind of like just carve out whatever's left. You don't need to go get out a palm sander or anything. We don't need to make it perfect. We just need to be close. So we can always fix that kind of a mess up. One-eyed tape and mud next time. All right, close enough. We'll just cut the next 2 pieces. There's my straight side. This one's about here. This kind of surgery can take a little bit, but hey, I'm gonna go 3 1/4, 3 1/4. So I was just telling my cameraman a story about the farmhouse. If you haven't seen the farmhouse videos, did an 1880 farmhouse, completely rebuilt it. And it's on the channel. You can check out the link. There's the backsplash I was doing in the kitchen. And it was tile, and I went floor to ceiling, and right at the very end I had to make a modification for my hood fan. So I had to take a tile off the wall. You wouldn't believe how much moisture that wall had sucked out of the adhesive that I was using in order for the adhesive to dry. And then when I took out the tile, it was just like butter. I was like blown away. And then within a couple of days, I had to change another tile, and it was solid as a rock again. That is the nature of drywall. It absorbs water and it releases water. This is looking so good now. All right. Almost at a point where I got to bring in a ladder, eh? Okay, let's get a couple more cuts for here that are tapered. 7.5-ish. Yeah, so I need a 7.5-inch piece of drywall that's 8 feet long. This is the easiest thing. I'm just gonna take my knife, I'm gonna set it on the square at 7.5. I'm gonna run the square across the drywall and let the tip of the knife do the score. That's simple. That way I've got a tapered edge up against a tapered edge, and it's gonna look really pretty. There we go. So I'm no longer in the shower, so this part of the drywall doesn't need to be water resistant. Now I'm gonna go tight here because that's my joint, and I don't have a lot of wood to fart around with, so it's nice if you're gonna be seaming on a joint that you use the tapered edge. Going vertical is so much easier this way because the drywall doesn't break out because it's wrapped in paper. If it was a butt end, a lot of times I'll see people do this. They put 2 screws. It holds the drywall together much better. So if you're running into trouble, try using 2 screws. It's still the gold standard in commercial construction, and there's a reason for that. If you ever try to take a wall apart that has 2 screws every location, it is work. It's easier to take out all the screws. All right, we're pretty much ready for the ladder work now. And then it'll be time to mud. By the way, the reason I'm using this dimpler bit, because it's $3. And it works just as good as a drywall screw gun, which is another couple $100. So if you want to save money on tools, great buy. So I'm going to teach you my trick for working alone. When you're putting drywall in the ceiling, you need an extra pair of hands. So basically you can carry it in, and if you put a block, line it up here, about an inch below, it makes it convenient. Okay? Whoa, some old dry wood, eh? So the idea is, I'm going to walk in with the drywall, like this, sorry, okay? And when I come up the ladder, I'm gonna slide it above that, lift it up here, put my hand here to hold it in position, right, and then I can drill it in. Let's see if it works. All right, there we go. Okay, now I wanna come across here. There we are. Drill and screws. I have to make sure that I'm nice and tight to this joint. I'm good there. And if you gotta work alone, this is the only way to do it, right? Now 1 screw will not hold a sheet of drywall, but 2 screws will. Especially 3. Now, it's important to note, I made a mark on the ceiling here. 3 inches from this location, that is where my location is for my fan. So I know that's my fan. Roll a zip, hit an edge, bounce out, and I can cut all 4 sides. Nice and easy. So now I'm gonna just finish screwing this up, and then we'll cut out the fan, stain seal that, add the last little piece of drywall, ready to mud. You look here, and you can line that up. Middle of the sheet. And then, there we go. This is why when I cut a hole, I always had a drywall screw on the new surface, on the old surface, sorry, because it tells me exactly where my strapping is once the seal is closed. And yes, you can use a toilet as a place to stand. Now, get rid of my extra pair of hands that I got over here. Look at that, I've got recycling screws, God. They don't go in as nice because new screws are covered in graphite powder. That way they go into the wood really easily. It's like a lubricant. If you save your old screws, you're gonna find that they no lubricant, so it's a lot harder to put a coarse thread screw into a piece of wood. All right, anyway. Okay, let's get that put aside. Let's get that last measurement. One more to go. That's almost consistent. 3 3/4, and it works its way down to 3. All right, that's 55.5. Let's go get that cut. So we're gonna go from 3 on the skinny side, 3 3/4 at this length, and then it's a lot easier to cut straight lines if you're only cutting the tip of the paper. If you get too deep, the zip rock will start sending you all over the place. All right. Okay, there's my length. Last piece. Okay. We're going to see if this fits now. That's a little rough over there. I think we got some old mud from the last drywall job in the corner ceiling. Nice. Okay, here we go. Probably doesn't need it, but what the heck, eh? As drywallers, we tend to put more screws in smaller pieces than big ones. It's a weird phenomenon. All right, well, there we go. I'm closed up. Oh, I gotta get my rotozip in here and cut out the fan. Here we go. So I'm gonna puncture here. I'm gonna come back till I hit the edge of the fan, and then I'll jump over the other side of the metal of the bracket, and I'll just be pushing in towards the middle of the fan as I draw around the outside. Should be nice and simple. There we go. Our fan's cut out. Now it's time to tape. But first, let's get all the dust out of this room. Not bad. Just give me a little bit too dry. No, probably too wet now. Nope, that'll be all right. It's never as perfect as you want it when you're using this system, but I think we'll be okay. All right, in we go. Okay, so before I carry on here, let me just talk about the fan again real quick. In my experience, these fans, a very small margin of error for if you make the hole too big, okay? If you try to cut this hole and then install your drywall, I mean, you've got to be perfect. Get the tool. That's all I can say. Get a rotozip so that you can cut it perfect every time, because the cover that they give you only covers about 1/4 inch. All right, and that's the wrong time to find out that the hole is too big when you're done your project. Maddening, because you got to go back with tape and mud. All right, or it's just going to be a disaster to break off and come out. Fans vibrate, so the tape will crack, or the mud will crack if you just try to patch it quick. All right, we're using oil-based killer. Bum, bum. Not sponsored. Just love the stuff. And we're not going to get stoned spraying it. Which, depending on the individual, may or may not be a benefit. Okay, oil-based sealant. And then over here, some brown tape, brown paper exposed. Okay, oil-based sealant. Kills is another company. This is in stock, so I get it. I love them both. All right, here we go. Oh, we got our mud. And some nice clean tools. Okay, we're gonna wait for this gap until this mud starts to set up. Ooh, I'm trying to go right over top of that. Yep. Okay. When you're taping, really, the benefit of using this 45 is it's super quick, because this hardens up really quick, okay? And when it starts to get hard, you can fill bigger and bigger cracks. So when you're doing like remodeling and renovations like this, and you have nasty holes in the ceiling like over here, it's a perfect time to have this product. Did I just cover over screws that weren't sunk? Huh, imagine that. Guess what? It doesn't matter. Here we go. Okay. And I'm gonna try to do all the work on the ladder first, and then get the bench out of the room to finish the rest. All right. One of the benefits of using a hock versus that little bucket that these guys are using out there nowadays is when the mud falls, you can catch it. Right? You gotta be pretty quick with a bucket to make that work. Oh, nice catch, Jeff. This way you can work clean, right? Another inside corner here. Just gonna get low enough where I can finish the rest from the ground. And before I forget, let's do the screws. Okay, and we're gonna come over here now. I went and taped before it dried, so I gotta shoot it again. All right, so now that that's all embedded, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go around and make sure all of the tape was wet on both sides. This keeps it from creating that buckling effect, okay? So we're gonna put the mud on and we're gonna take it back off again. If the paper tape is dry on one side, it always creates a blister, all right? That's just how it works. I don't know the science behind it, I just know this is the solution. All right. And then we're not trying to create straight lines or clean it up, we're just trying to get the tape wet so that it doesn't blister, so that we don't have to have an extra day's worth of work fixing all the blisters. If you can avoid blisters on your job, you're another day ahead. Boom. Catch all of the drips. Alrighty, so I'm gonna do that joint in a second. The last thing I'm gonna do, just to make my life a little easier and cut down on some time here, is because I'm working with 45, I'm now gonna actually fill the inside corners on the ceilings only, and on one side of the inside corners, okay? This is just the first coat of that. Okay, well, let's finish off this end of the bench here. Here we go. Now it's starting to get thick enough, it's holding itself up in the ceiling. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This end we're good. Down here, I'm gonna cheat. It's such a big gap. Yeah. Let's clean this up first and I'll show you what I'm gonna do. Not a lot of people know this, but when you're taping, you can go tape over tape on the first coat. So you can make the tape wide enough to cover up a big gap like this, okay? You just want to hold it in place while I pull it this way. Okay, use the trowel. Use your hock as another hand. All right. Now you don't want to leave much mud on the surface of that. In that particular case, you want to have it nice and clean and let it dry. Okay? Now, let's just make sure that this is all nice and wet here so nothing blisters. Okay. Now we can get off the bench. You know, one of the reasons we do these videos is so as a homeowner, you're hiring contractors in your house. And if it takes them 3 days to cut the drywall, stick it on, and put on the first coat of mud, you might be an indication that they don't have a lot of experience. Because I've been doing this since 9 o'clock. It's only 12:15. And I'm going to be done in about another 15 minutes. And because I'm using 45-minute compound, you guessed it, we're going to throw a fan in here. I'm going to do a second coat of 45. And then I'm going to put a fan in here. Then I'm going to come back before I go home today with a third coat of mud on. So, guys, if you're not used to working like this, get used to working like this. There's no reason you can't install drywall and get 2 or 3 coats of mud on in the same day. And look at the benefit. If you can shave 2 days off of your production time by hiring a guy who knows what he's doing on the drywall, that gives you, on the average bathroom renovation, shaving 2 days off, that's 4 days, 40. Wow, that's almost 2 more months. That's 8 more bathrooms a year your company can put out. Just hiring someone who knows what they're doing. And that is money in the bank. Because I'll guarantee you, most guys aren't paying 8 bathrooms worth of money to their one taper that they got on staff. Now here's an interesting question. You might be asking yourself, hey, why are you taping the joint in the shower when you're going to be putting a polystyrene back on? It's because it's still code to have paper tape for fire safety. Right? Having that paper and mud in that corner means you got 20 minutes if there's a fire. And because one day someone might want to pull that polystyrene off the wall and tile it, and it would be nice if there was actually drywall work finished in behind it. Because generally speaking, you can pull these old units off, remove the surface glue, and you're in business. Apply your red garden tile right away. It's that easy. Oh, wow, I really have to stretch there, don't I? Oh, didn't do myself any favors up there, right? All right. Look at that. I think we're gonna have made the perfect amount of mud yet again. By accident. That's awesome. All right. Inside corners. All right. Just remember, a quick tip when you're taping, you don't need to take the paper all the way to the floor. There's always going to be floor trim boards of some sort down there, right? So if you stay away from the floor an inch or so, you greatly reduce the risk of pulling dirt off the floor into your mud and wrecking your finish. Oi, oi, oi. All right. Gotta love my job. There's my joint. If you're not sure because you lost it in the mud, it'll click when it hits the next joint. There we go. I'm in the right spot. Yeah, I got a joint down here because when I cut and measured to put this board on, I accidentally got the measurement wrong. So sure enough, I have the hole in the wrong spot. So I had to install it a little higher because I'm not throwing a sheet out over that. That's for darn sure. There we go. Happens. Everybody makes mistakes. Key is know how to fix them. All right. Let's finish all this off. So what I'm doing right now is actually, it's called embedding the tape. EMB, embedding. And then I'm gonna come over and make sure that it was all nice and wet and cleaned up. When you're working with hand tools, you actually set that tape in mud under compression, and you get a much stronger joint than you do when you're using those commercial bazookas and banjos and all those fancy machines you see on TikTok. This is a much higher quality job, doing it by hand. Now, there's nothing really wrong with the other way, but I'll tell you, when you can just measure down 4 feet off a wall and know where the joint is and go like this with a knife and pull 30 feet of tape off the wall, it doesn't leave me feeling very confident about how long it's going to last. All right. Always finish your mud, right? Going over the good part. Okay, work from new towards your finish. Okay, now I don't have to go any higher than that because I can put it on the wall panels. Oh, I'm assuming. Let's just make sure the last couple inches are good. All right. You're gonna fill the screw holes because when you put on polystyrene, if you don't, that's right, those holes will end up translating through. Here we go. Now, gotta finish this side. I've only got another 10 minutes with this mud tops, and then it's done. Okay, let's make sure this was wet. Yeah, it's not gonna work. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. This is getting too thick to put tape into it. This line and this line represent where the drywall joints are. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, because this is such a nasty wall, that's why I saved it till the end. I'm going to just get a big trowel in here and try to flatten out this whole mess so we have a nice surface to tape on in a few minutes when this all hardens up. And that is going to be a lot easier to work with. Okay, lost a piece of that wall there. Oh. This is awesome. What a great way to show you how fast this sets up, eh? I think we're done with that pail. Okay. Whew. I'm gonna go wash up. You know what I can do? I can take a little bit of whatever's here and I can do the rest of these screw holes. Oh, one at a time though, and there's no way I'm Yeah, that's ridiculous. Okay. I don't want to have to sand all that. I'll just make sure it's all knocked down. Okay. All right, so it's 1 o'clock now, and here we go. I'm just going around looking for raised edges, right? Because raised edges means you have something on the other side of that raised edge that needs to be filled. So if you can knock them down like this, you use less mud, and everything dries faster. Now this isn't dry yet, it's just simply hardened, okay? So my process here is going to be, come back tomorrow after I do this coat. Now I'm gonna do the tape coat here, then we're gonna come back tomorrow, do another coat of mud, and then probably the next day do my final coat and make it look really pretty, right? Not in a super big hurry. But, yeah, I think, generally speaking, I'm ready to tape the next coat here. Whenever you see that, it means the drywall isn't screwed to the wall tight enough. Things are moving around, so the nail popped off. So I'm gonna throw a couple more screws in here and get those patched up. But I'm gonna go switch over to regular compound right now, okay? I've already got this whipped up from yesterday's video where we did a drywall challenge where I actually installed all the walls in the laundry room on the other side of here, did the first coat and the second coat with 45, the product I just used. And then I finished with this, did all those coats in one day. And the goal was to try to sand, prime, and paint the same day. And we would have been successful, but yesterday we had high humidity and thunderstorms. So we had to it was a write-off. It's just the wrong day to be aggressive. I don't have a dehumidifier here. Anyway, it is still humid and it is still hot. So I'm not gonna be that ambitious today either. I'm just gonna go with one regular coat of this compound here. Keep the lid on. And I'm gonna show you this tool. It's an inside corner trowel. I'll demonstrate right here for you. So basically you're gonna put some mud on the wall. All right, both sides of the corner. All right, there we are, nice and gooped up. And you're gonna wanna feather off the edge, okay? And then you can take this trowel and do both sides at the same time. All right, now, because it's got a slight bevel to it. It's not a sharp angle. So it's not gonna get you the same quality finish as if you did one side with this knife and then the other side when it's dry with this knife. But it is a great way to save some time because now tomorrow when I come here, both sides are finished. And I just need to maybe feather it out a little bit and sand it back. So if you're a homeowner looking for a cheat and get a decent result, it's decent. If you're just getting occupancy permit at your church so you can sell it, it's decent. Not everything has to be Picasso, right? Sometimes it's just as nice to have a 5-year-old's art on the fridge, right? Now we'll start in the corner here, and then I'll pull it out and away. Okay. There we go. Do another pass. There we go. Not bad, eh? Like I said, it's not perfect, right? But most people in the world that do drywalling aren't doing perfect. And most professional tools give you about that kind of result on an inside corner. So don't be too hard on yourself. And don't judge me too much for using it. Oh, that looked like hell. There we go. All right. You can see the challenge you're gonna have here now because you start getting intersecting joints, right? What this means is you're going to have a little bit of extra sanding to do. That's all. In a lot of people's minds, a little extra sanding is easier than trying to get a perfect finish. And so the time cheat of just saving an entire day by doing this is probably worth it. Unless you're trying to do some really nice stuff. Like if you're doing a 4-piece master bath with a soaker tub, take the time, okay? Take the time and do it nice. But I'm just making a 2-piece in a basement into a 3-piece so that I can get an occupancy permit. And at the end of the day, you've got to allow yourself to have different qualities of production to suit the market that you're working in. And then a light sanding. Beautiful. Okay, let's get some more of this on here. Just a trick here. If you take the mud off the sides of the pail before it dries, you won't get dried chunks of mud falling into your pail and then wrecking your finish. And at the end of the day, you can put a cup of water in to keep it from going hard. Works like a charm. Now this is a first coat for this part of the ceiling, and I'm just trying to create some consistency so I can feather an edge later. There we go. That'll be good for that. Of course, the polystyrene that we're putting up here doesn't go all the way to the ceiling. So I've got to try to putting a lot of pressure on the bottom, so I'm not digging a groove across the top. Okay. Beautiful. Yeah, I'll show you that trick. Okay, take the mud out, and I want it on the heel. Okay. That's how I get the mud where I want it. Now, if you're watching me and you're not familiar with the fact that we have a complete tutorial on how to use these tools and do drywall work, I'll put a link in the video description for you. Because having this one skill makes you an incredibly handy person and incredibly independent when it comes to your projects, not having to hire people. Everybody in the world looking for a good taper. All right, done. That's just the second coat. When we come back the next time, I'll be able to pull this out a little wider on both sides and make it incredibly smooth and easy to sand. Okay, now we're back to finishing off taping this. And it's okay if you've got mud in between your drywall and your tape. All right, don't worry about that, especially when it's a hardener. There we go. And especially when you're using hand tools and you're embedding the tape. Oh, I'm on the wrong line. I think I'm on the wrong line. There we go. Okay. Let's get that in there. Yeah, that's better. There we go. Just like we did with the inside corners, I'm going to add a finish coat right over top of the wet tape. It isn't going to hurt anything. And then that way, tomorrow when I come back, The entire room will be at a second coat stage. Okay, finished, completion. Sure. All right, now that is officially as thick as that build-out is going to get. Tomorrow I'm going to put a pile over here and a pile over here. We'll stretch that joint out so you won't even see it. Okay, now we're done. Okay guys, we let this dry overnight and it's not dry yet. Just a word of warning. When you're working with that inside corner trowel, look at this. Like it's still wet here. Okay, it's a problem. I tried getting rid of a ridge and it's just soaking wet. When you're putting all-purpose compound on the wall, you just can't cheat. You can't cut corners. You got to use a little bit of mud. Look at it, also cracked all the way along this line. When you have too much mud, and I brought in a fan to help dry it out faster, it dried, that's nice, but it cracked because there was just too much compound. So now I'm committed to using that tool yet again. We're going to put a little more pressure on it this time. I'm not a big fan of it. I tried using it in this job to demonstrate whether or not it was valuable to you as a homeowner, so you didn't have to learn how to use this tool. I'm going to suggest to just watch our videos about how to do taping A to Z. Learn how to use the 4-inch knife, because for me this is a complete fail. I just hate it. I'm not going to be happy with this. If I had to have the ceiling in different color from the walls, it would be atrocious. As it is right now, I'm going to finish it up. I'm probably going to have to use caulking on all the corners, just so that I can get a paint line to cut. And yeah, I'm disappointed. Anyway, just wanted to share that. So, we're gonna get this loaded up. First thing today is I'm gonna stretch out the joints around the fan, my major joint here, and the ceiling, where I had a joint here, and then an extra piece of drywall. So, I'm gonna actually come the wrong direction this time, okay? I'm gonna just get some mud on there first. And I'm going to show you, I want you to pull this so tight that it leaves no bubbles. Okay? No little air bubbles. This says too thick, this says thin. All right? Now, I'm going to need at least one more coat on this ceiling. But when you have a double joint scenario like that, especially on ceilings, you want to actually tape in two different directions, because that'll help you to make it all work out nice and tight. These little ridges, don't worry about, okay? We'll come back tomorrow and I'll use the 4-inch knife and just cut them down. And then my last coat will go like this and like this, because this is actually scooping towards the middle. It's hard to make it perfect, right? Okay. While I'm standing here, same with this joint up here. Okay. I'm just going to try to get closer to perfection so the next coat will do the job. Now, we're going to just flatten this out a little bit. This is going to go behind the polystyrene wall, so it's not all that important. But the wall probably only comes up to about this high, okay? So we want to make sure that everything above it is going to look nice. Yeah. Sorry it's a tight space, I got my back to you, but I'm just going to run it across here. And again, when we did the last coat, we had the pressure on the bottom. Okay, so we'll put that back in. Make that nice and thin. But this time I'm going to come across and put pressure on the top. And you can see there's a huge void here that needs to be filled. And part of this is because that other trowel does a really lousy job of creating this concave effect. Okay? So we'll come back with it and we'll fill these gaps up. That's part of the problem you're going to run into. Okay, now We're going to treat this like one great big butt joint. Okay? And we want to pull it until it doesn't have big air bubbles in it. If there's big air bubbles, and it's going to just dry with bubbles. It dries with bubbles. Means you put too much mud on. Okay, and then we'll do it over here. Right now what we're doing is our butt joint science. We're building up the left and the right side of this joint so that we can stretch it out over time. Okay, not adding hardly anything, maybe just a little bit here because I'm going to press it really tight. There we go. Okay. Okay. Whew. While we're here, we'll hit the screw holes again. Whenever you're taping, never miss an opportunity to fill these. You'll get all right to the very end and you'll be painting and you'll be filling in screw holes. I got them all. Good. Okay. I think I'm pretty much committed to another coat just because of the nature of joining existing. The old inside corner joints are always so thick. There's not a whole lot that I can do other than just apply a few coats of mud over and over and over again to balance it out. Remember, the goal here is not to make it perfectly flat. It won't ever happen. We have a ceiling made of wood with an old joint and a new joint. We've got rounded edges every time you go to the edges. It'll never get perfectly flat. What you're looking for is smooth enough that you can sand it so you can't see the ridges. That is it. This is the art of hiding the obvious. Okay. Now we'll switch back over to that inside corner trowel and we'll try to finish this off. So for this, less is more. We just want a little bit of something on here, okay? So we have something to pull with. There we go. All right, and then after I'm done, I'm gonna come back with my 4-inch and clean up those lines. This time, I'm only concerned about the very inside corner. Okay. I still hate it, but it's not looking too bad. Now we're gonna come back, we're gonna use this, just feather it in. Remember that concept of smooth enough that you can sand it? That's all we're doing here, okay? Just smooth enough that I can sand the difference. That's the best you can hope for here. I know, tomorrow I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna do one more coat and it's gonna finish really nice. I just don't wanna have a big mess to fill in. There we go.